Hello, 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 everyone. This is Reverend T. I am the Mindful Coach, and this is Mindful Intentions Nurture and Drive Your Business. Welcome back to another segment, and we give all the glory and honor and praise to the Lord above. Today, we are going to be talking about a Navy veteran's journey to family adventures with April Childers. A Navy veteran who now calls Middle Tennessee home has embarked on a new chapter of her life. After 2 decades of service in the Navy, she traded in her uniform for a different kind of adventure, one that involves family, entrepreneurship, and making lasting memories. Military service and transition of April's journey begin with her military service. For years, she dedicated herself to duty, honor, and country. But as her time in the Navy came to an end, she faced a new challenge, transitioning to civilian life. Instead of resting on her laurels, April embraced the change and found fulfillment in other pursuits. Family and living with her amazing husband Joe, their dog Mavis, and their cat Minnie, April experiences daily adventures. However, it's her family that truly holds her heart. With two fantastic daughters, their awesome husbands, and two granddaughters, April's plate is full. She cherishes the moments spent with her loved ones and strives to create meaningful memories. She is a military spouse and wears many hats. She's not only a mentor, speaker, but also an entrepreneur. Her entrepreneurial spirit keeps her on her toes, and she wouldn't have it any other way. April's podcasting endeavors allow her to share her experiences, insights, and wisdom with others, creating a positive impact. Beyond the hustle and bustle of everyday life, April takes on the role of the family's adventure architect. Whether it's a spontaneous road trip or a meticulous planned family getaway, she loves creating experiences that will be cherished for a lifetime. Making valuable memories and having family fun are the core of her philosophy. April embodies resilience, adaptability, and the joy of family bonds. Her journey from military service to family adventure serves as an inspiration to us all. And today, she's going to tell us just a little bit more about who she is, what she does, and why she does it. Thank you, April, for being on the show today. Welcome and let us know a little bit more about you.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. I'm really excited about anytime I can get my message out there, especially with a spiritual touch to it, because I believe I am where I am because God has brought me to this point in my life. And, you're in the right place when things just kind of fall together. Like when I went to start my podcast, I put it out there on a couple of groups, said, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm just getting started. I'm looking for speakers." And I was overwhelmed by the response. And that's just one of those I told friends, I said, I'm in the right place at the right time because this is where God wants me to be.
Absolutely. Isn't that wonderful how that works? I always say that I'm the accidental podcaster because I, in no way, shape, form, or fashion, was going to start a podcast, wanted to start a podcast, knew what I was doing, had no clue. I even tried to shut it down, and God brought it back to life. And so, yeah. And so, you are the second week into me revamping this show. And so, thank you for being a guest today. Thank you for coming and sharing your story. And I think we all have something in common when it comes to being in this world of podcasting and sharing our stories and helping others to share theirs. Tell us a little bit about how you got started with that.
It's funny. I kept thinking I really would like to do a podcast. I love talking to people. I love hearing their stories. And I think it's so important. And I think part of it is as I've gotten older, I really appreciate what people have gone through because I know what I've gone through in my life. And I think I saw when I was in the military so many of these young kids came in and they came right out of mom and daddy's house and various backgrounds, but they didn't have that structure. They didn't know that life is going to be hard and nobody prepared them for that. And I mean, somebody breaks up with their girlfriend breaks up with them, and all of a sudden you're sitting in an emergency room on suicide watch with a young person who has their whole life ahead of them. And it's like, this is what life is about. I mean, it's hard. It's not for the weak. If it was easy, everybody would do it. And it just broke my heart to see these young people struggling like this. So I really enjoy my focus on the podcast. It's What's Her Superpower? And it's all about women and what they've been through and what that has molded them into, what they've become through their struggles, through the valley. You know, they've come out the other side and they're stronger. And it's just, I love the stories that are coming out of it. And one of the last things I ask them is, you know, as a woman, of whether it's business, nonprofit, ministry, whatever, what is their superpower that they bring into their business, their life, their whatever? And it's just been so much fun to hear the responses.
Absolutely. That's good because, we often think about it. Women wear so many different hats, and we can have so many different superpowers, right? And one of them that we lack is self care, right? Taking care of ourselves. That could be the least of our superpowers. But I think a lot of times when we are wearing all these different hats, the superpower is helping others most of the time, right? That mostly what women say because they love being there for others.
Yeah, they do love being there for others, but, you know, sometimes it is like the lessons that they've learned has given them that empathy of sometimes it's sympathy, sometimes it is that spirit that, you know what, everything that I've been through, I can do anything. And because they've seen that play out in their lives, and it's just the stories are just remarkable. I've had so much fun. Matter of fact, it's funny you say that you changed the format of your podcast because my initial format was I would have an interview and then the next week I release weekly. And then the next week I would do an episode on something. And, you know, I'm kind of all over the place because I've got so many interests. But I had so many interviews. I had 19 interviews before I even got started. And so I kept, I stuck with that format for the first few months. And I'm like, I really I miss recording and I miss talking to people and getting their stories. So I've just recently changed the format. So every week I will have a different interview. And I do like a lunch and learn in my groups and some of my pages and stuff. So that's going to be my training where people can still get to know me and but every week we'll have a different interview, so I'm excited about that.
Wow. And so, what made you take the transition from military life to civilian life? Was it a career change, or was it just the end of the road for you being in the military? What was the transition from military life to civilian life?
It was retirement. I had my 20 years in, and my husband, I'm also a military spouse. My husband retired 2 years before I did. So as I was coming up on my 20 years, in all honesty, I would have stayed if it wasn't for him. They would have had to kick me out kicking and screaming because I just loved it. I loved the structure. I loved the fact that I could be an influence, a positive influence on these kids' lives. I love the travel, but he was like, okay, your 20 years is up. It's time to go. So that's what happened. And we had already bought we bought actually a convenience store after he retired and about 10 months before I retired. So he was already in Tennessee running the store. And he was like, you need to come help me.
Wow.
So, yeah, so that was the motivating factor is, I had my 20 years in and it was time to move on.
Yeah. How did that change your life? Like, did you feel like a part of you were missing, or were you ready to move on?
Part of me was ready to move on because the military had just changed so much, but it's still an adjustment because one of the things that I learned is that the military does a great job of getting us in. It's down to a fine science, but they do a lousy job of getting us out because they don't prepare us for this being a civilian, especially after somebody's been in. It's probably a little easier if you've only been in 3, maybe 4 years, still an adjustment. But after 20, 30 years, that's your whole life is upended.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you've gone from every day knowing where to be, what to do, what to wear, how to do it, and to having all this freedom. And I compare it to, and you're probably not as old as I am, but do you remember when the internet came out?
Yeah, I do
And
actually.
yeah, and all of a sudden it was like, you heard about it and you heard about it and you were so excited about it. And then the first time you sat down at a computer and you're like, I can look up anything in the entire world on this box. And you sit down and you're like, I don't know what to look up. It was kind of the same way when I retired because I was like, I can do anything that I want to do. I don't know what I want to do. So it was a real journey to figure out who I was, who April was, and what I liked, what I wanted to do. And so it was a lot of self-discovery. And this year will be 10 years that I've been retired. And my goal now is to help women make that transition a little easier and a little faster than what I went through, because there's no roadmap.
Yeah,
The military doesn't give you any guidance. They don't prepare you emotionally and mentally to make that transition.
yeah, wow. So you just mainly target women in the military that are transitioning out? Is that who you basically work with?
If they're ready to start that, because I mean, they can actually, because I think it was 18 months, you can put in your request to retire. So if they're at that point, but usually they're so busy trying to get appointments done and everything else that they don't think about it at that point. They may
Mhm.
it's like, "Am I gonna work? Where can I find a job?" That's the big thing, and to do all the appointments they have to do to get out of the military. But, even for women that have been out for a while, I've got a friend of mine that's been out for 2 years, and she is just now getting to the point. She took a job maybe 6 months ago, and that was the first job she'd had since she had retired, and she's like, I was tired. She said, "I got out, I was tired. I was physically, emotionally, mentally tired, and I just had to shut down for a little while." So, and unfortunately, that happens more times than we would like to think, that people just get out and but I do focus mainly on women. And, because and, I always like to preface, I'm not a man hater,
Yeah,
But I think there's a lot of tools out there for men already. And, the military overall, the VA, all the government agencies are really just now getting to the point to say, "Oh, women are different than men. Maybe we need to have special services for women."
yeah,
So, and I think that's important because women go through a lot of transitions when they get out. Sometimes all of a sudden they're the primary caregiver for either young children or aging, parents. Um, they used to be the primary breadwinner. Now they're not. So and that's just if they have no other like PTSD, MST, any other emotional issues that they're dealing with.
yeah. And I'm sure a lot of times we as women are emotional creatures anyways. And so going through that type of transition without that emotional support can be tough. And so that is awesome that you see the need and you understand what that looks like, because I know with myself, the reason why I'm such an advocate for mental health is because I have my own bout with mental health issues. And I don't think that people realize what that looks like, because you look like you're in good shape, because you're smiling, because you can continue to go to work and be a functioning human being in society, doesn't mean that you don't need support and that you aren't going through some type of struggle. And to have someone that can be supportive and understanding and knows what that looks like is very commendable, because so often we hide the fact that we're not as strong as we come across, right?
And especially with the women making that transition out of the military. I mean, for however many years you were in, you put on a mask. of,
Mhm.
I have to be strong, I have to be independent because that's the world that you're in. And it's almost like you're two different people. I mean, my transition to I would work and then the drive home was I would turn the radio off. I just had to decompress from that atmosphere.
Mhm.
And you just get into the habit of doing it as a natural process and you don't even realize it. And then when you're out of that, um, you don't know how to process those emotions. And it's all of a sudden a lot of women experience a lack of purpose, where in the military, they had a purpose, they had a mission. And all of a sudden they don't have that. Sometimes there's financial instability. So there's so much going on. And as helpful as your family and maybe a spouse or friends want to be, unless they've been through that situation, they don't understand it. And everybody is different. We all process in a different way.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, there's not any programs at all that women can get into if they're going through something like that, correct?
Well, and like the VA, they have counselors and things like that. But really, while you're as you're out processing, there's like a week-long course that they put you through. And I know when I went through it, the main focus of the course was to teach you how to get another job.
Mm,
To do your resume, to interview, to dress for interviews. That's the kind of stuff they taught you. And I remember sitting in the class going, "Hi, I own a business already. I'm not looking for a job. What do I have to be here?" They're like, "Oh, yeah, you have to because you have to have so many hours of this class. So you have to be here whether you're going to do the work or not." Okay, that's intelligent. Hopefully that's changed a little bit, but the problem is that a lot of the programs are part of the government um, structure.
mhm.
And when people are getting out, male or female, there is a lot of distrust. There's a lot of like, I just want to get away from the government, from the military, and they don't want to deal with the VA or some of the other programs that are out there.
Wow. So, if someone was looking to get some help, how would they get in contact with you? How would they be able to work with you on that level?
They can reach out. My website is theaprilchilders.com. And I'm on Facebook. I've got my business page is The April Childers. I tried to keep the same theme across everything. I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok. So I'm all over I feel like I'm all over the place.
Okay.
So yeah, when they go to my website, all they have to do is sign in, drop their email, and I'll reach out and make contact with them.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you because a lot of times people don't understand where they can really get help because sometimes they are afraid to show again vulnerability, to show a sign of weakness because they've come from a background where they've been the one that has been the person that you lean to or that is the one that upholds everything, and when they're struggling it's hard to see that struggle, and so it's good to know that there is someone that understands and appreciates people for who they are and what they've been through and what to give them a voice and an opportunity to allow them to be able to be heard. And
Yeah.
oftentimes we don't have that. And so I'm grateful to know you and to know that you are offering that to women out there.
Yeah, and as you're going through this, I know in my case, I was like, "What is wrong with me? Why is this?" You think that it wouldn't be that hard. It's like, "Oh, I'm in the military one day and the next day I'm not. And this should be easy." But it's not. And it's not our fault. It is and sometimes you just need to know that there's nothing wrong with you and
Yes.
other people are going through the same thing.
Yes. That's what I love about this platform, because a lot of times people will say, "Well, let me know if this is something that would your audience will relate to." Yes, it is something my audience can relate to, because truthfully, my audience is everybody. I
Mhm.
don't know who might come across this podcast and who might chime in that needs to hear what someone on here is saying. And so there's no story that doesn't need to be heard because there's someone that needs to hear it, right?
Yep,
So
exactly.
I appreciate you for coming on and for sharing with us and for taking the time out of your schedule to be able to let people know that they're not alone, that you care, you have that empathy, and you can also show them how to do the transition and to acquire what needs to be taken to go through the process.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I just want, I know since I've retired and I've gone through this process, I am now, I can honestly say, living the life of my dreams. And it is my mission for every woman to be able to live the life of her dreams, whatever that looks like for her. And it just takes, it takes work to make that happen. It's not going to accidentally happen, and we can't rely on other people to make it happen for us. We have to do it.
Absolutely. I think you said something that's very important there. A lot of people think that it's easy when they see people that are making it or have made it, or they think that they're doing something spectacular. And I tell people all the time, just because something looks easy doesn't mean that it is. If you see me and it looks like I'm doing something well, look underneath the water and see. I'm just a duck on the water paddling underneath fast as I can to get to the next. And so I think that when people can hear our stories and can see the realness of people, that you're an actual real human being that has been there, that understands, that's heard, touched, smelled, felt what these people have went through and are understanding what they're going through, then it's relatable and it makes the people not feel like they can't accomplish something. It helps them to see that, hey, if they can go through it and they've survived, then I can too. So we
Yeah.
need more people like you to share their stories and to help folks out.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, there are a lot, like, I'm not a certified counselor. I'm not, I don't have all these initials after my name, but I've been there. I've got that T-shirt, and I think that counts for so much because a lot of the programs that are set up are run by licensed counselors and things like that, and they have good intentions, but they haven't been there. They haven't been in
Mhm.
those boots.
Yeah.
Those combat boots did not, weren't on them, and they don't know some of the things that we experienced, that we went through, that we survived on a daily basis just to do our jobs. And, when you make that transition, it's a different world, and it's we laugh about kinder, gentler world, and that's what military women are going into. They're going out of one extreme into another of two totally different worlds, and they don't understand each other.
Wow. Well, thank you for helping us to get a little bit better of grasp and understanding on what it is, what it looks like. And hopefully there's someone that's out there that maybe has been struggling with this and needed to hear what you had to say, and they will be able to reach out to you or find some sort type of resource to help them to transition and know that they're not alone and that what they've done matters and that they still matter and are making a difference. So thank you. Before we jump off of here, is there anything else you'd like to leave our audience with?
I don't think so. Just you're worth the work. If you're struggling, reach out to somebody, because life's short and you just need to make the most of it. And but that takes you putting in the work, like we talked about. So and start dreaming. A dream life is wonderful.
Amen. And you can live that dream. So thank you, April. Hang out with me for a minute while I get us out of here. Thank you again for joining us today for this segment, A Navy Veteran's Journey to Family Adventures. She said that it's a transition, but if you can go through the process, you'll be all the better off for it. So get with April if you need some help in the transition, if you need someone that has been there and knows what you're going through. She understands because she's been there. So remember, in this life, we were created with a purpose. So you might as well be great. So Go and be great. God bless you. Thank you for tuning in and join us again. We will have another show in a couple of hours. Thank you for tuning in. See you soon.
Bye.